He scored, and then he started crying, and it had nothing to do with the goal. 80,000 people in Kansas City watched a 38-year-old wipe his eyes with his shirt in the middle of a World Cup, while the rest of the planet was busy doing maths. Because that goal was his 16th at a World Cup, which ties a record that had stood untouched since 2014. By the end of the night, he had 3. A hat-trick at 38 in his 6th World Cup, 20 years to the month after his first one. So this is the story of one game that broke 4 different records and one quiet sentence afterwards that nobody saw coming. Let's get into it. First, the actual football, because it almost gets lost in the numbers. Argentina, the defending champions, opened against Algeria at Arrowhead Stadium, and it finished 3-0. All 3 goals, the same man. Messi scored in the 17th minute, again on the hour, and once more in the 76th. 17, 60, 76. A tidy little hat-trick spread across the whole match, just to make sure everyone was still watching. Algeria, to their credit, were organized, compact, and completely powerless to stop a man who has been doing this since before some of their squad could walk. Now the first record. 16 goals at World Cups. That number belonged to Miroslav Klose, the German striker, and it had sat there since 2014, like a museum exhibit nobody expected to touch. Along the way, Messi quietly stepped over Brazil's Ronaldo on 15, then Gerd Müller and Kylian Mbappé, both stuck on 14. So in roughly 60 minutes of football, he rearranged the entire all-time scoring chart and parked himself at the very top, next to a man he had never shared a pitch with. Somewhere in Germany, Klose's record looked up from its nap and realized the lease was up. Then the second record. And this is the funny one. Messi is 38. That makes him the oldest player ever to score a hat-trick at a World Cup. The previous holder of that particular title, Cristiano Ronaldo, who managed his at the ripe old age of 33, 5 years younger. So the one record Messi took directly off Ronaldo this week was the record for being old, which is a deeply petty way to win a rivalry, and I respect it enormously. At an age when most footballers are doing punditry in a nice suit, this one is still scoring 3 in an afternoon. But here is the number that does the most damage. This is Messi's 6th World Cup. Nobody in the entire history of the tournament had ever played in 6. He is the first. He has now scored in 5 different editions, across 20 years, on 3 different continents, against players who grew up watching him do it. To put that in human terms, he has been scoring at World Cups for so long that a fan who was born when he debuted is now old enough to buy a ticket, drive to the stadium, and watch him do it again. It was also his 200th appearance for Argentina, because of course it was. The man does not do small occasions. And then, the part that had nothing to do with any of it. After that first goal, the cameras caught Messi crying, properly crying, wiping his face with his jersey, while his teammates celebrated around him. Everyone assumed it was the record or the emotion of the moment. It wasn't. Afterwards, he explained, quote, "I cried after the first goal. Yes, but it was something completely unrelated to football." He said he had been through some difficult days and that he was grateful to his teammates and the entire delegation for being by his side. He didn't explain further, and he doesn't owe anyone the rest. The greatest scorer in World Cup history, standing in the middle of his biggest night, crying about something he kept entirely to himself, which makes what he said about the records almost funnier. Asked about standing alongside Klose and Ronaldo at the top of the list, Messi said it was an honor, and then added, quote, "But it doesn't mean anything." The most decorated player in the sport, who just spent 90 minutes demolishing a record book, looked at the whole thing and shrugged. Klose's 16 goals, the oldest hat-trick ever, 6 World Cups, 200 caps, all of it filed under doesn't mean anything. Either it's the calmest perspective in football, or it's the most devastating flex ever delivered with a straight face. Possibly both. So 1 game, 1 player, 4 records, and a man who insists none of it matters, while doing the single most memorable thing of the tournament so far. Kansas City gave him a standing ovation. The record book gave him a new page. And Messi gave the whole thing a shrug and went to find his family. Whatever those difficult days were, he answered them with a hat trick, which is a very Messi way to have a bad week. So tell me below, is this the greatest World Cup career of all time? Or is the shrug right, and the numbers really don't mean anything? And if you want to see the other side of this World Cup, the empty seats and the $1,000 tickets nobody would pay, the full breakdown is right here. Subscribe, because at 38, he is somehow not finished writing this.